A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Everybody's got one, and this is ours, the lower floor bathroom here in the old house. You know, bathrooms are one of the key problem areas in an old house. And while this bathroom wasn't so bad when we first moved in, everything in here was horribly dated. Give it a couple years down the road, things start to need repair. We began a restoration and repair project of our own, but it never managed to gain any kind of appreciable traction. The bathroom was sidelined for a number of years till we finally did get it put somewhat incompletely back together. We put it into use even though it really wasn't ready for prime time, and that just wasn't a very good idea. So this will be the last footage of the bathroom. Even though we hit a stumbling block with our general contractor, they're back on board now. Supposed to be here tomorrow to start the demolition process. And then we're going to rebuild this bathroom better than it has ever been rebuilt before. The counter's probably the best part, that and the mirror, apart from the guy you see in it. But even it is terribly dated. We reckon that this was probably last remodeled sometime in the 1950s or 60s or thereabout. It's really hard to tell for sure, but based on the styling of the counter, that's our guess. Maybe more toward the 1960s. This house had quite a bit of remodeling done through the 1940s, from the 1940s through to the 1960s. So everything in here is terribly dated. Some stuff is in really bad shape. It all just needs badly to be redone. We think that when the remodeling started in here, that they actually swapped the position of the bathtub versus the vanity and the countertops. Because when we did have this all taken apart back in here, we discovered that there was an access to the laundry chute running down the side, and there was also electrical wiring that appeared to be in the position that lighting would take, lighting on each side of the mirror. So per our best guess at least, this would have been the vanity and the countertop originally, and presumably the bathtub was over here. On the other side of this wall in Furhead's bedroom, there's a plumbing access, and while it provides services to these sinks now, it might have at one point been to service a bathtub, because bathtubs oftentimes have concealed plumbing. Although who knows, maybe this was something cool like a clawfoot bathtub. We never had the good fortune to see it. And as you can see, some of the more successful repairs that we've done include these faucets. These are crane sinks. Again, from a style that was popular sometime in the 1950s or 60s. Crane plumbing has been out of business for years. The parts are almost impossible to come by. And several years ago, about a decade ago, the faucets really started to get bad. They leaked all the time. They were beyond what we could repair. They were beginning to rust out and leak into the cabinets, causing big problems. So I believe these are Moen faucets. But of course this nozzle here, the faucet outlet, that's quite difficult to find anything that'll fit it. And so we decided to keep that original and simply change the faucets. Rather amazingly, we got away with it, and while you can tell there's a difference in the age of the two pieces, it certainly doesn't look as bad as it could. Really, when you have something like this, and of course, I don't think you can really get sinks this large anymore. Seems that sinks are a lot smaller, a lot more rounded in this day and age. This came out pretty good for what it was. Nothing leaks now. Like I say, our general contractor is going to be here, and when they are, it's going to be a happy day. The demolition process will start, and I'll be along with my video camera to capture as much of it as I possibly can.
That may be okay too. The other option is that you get a stock door that has about 10 or 12 inch panel on one side or the other. The door is actually more like 2 feet long. It swings off that panel. And then cover the counter. That's mine.
Let's have a look at the results produced by the first week of bathroom remodeling related activities. I'll also take the opportunity to talk about some of the things I've learned. One of the first being that if you have a thermostat that is situated right across the hall from the bathroom, and the bathroom window happens to be out of place, well, you should probably turn that off, because otherwise the poor furnace is going to try to wage a war that it can't possibly win, and the temperature in the rest of the house, which actually wasn't too bad, it was kind of a nice improvement, this being a big old cold house, well, that temperature tends to skyrocket. So we'll go in here and take a look at what's been done. Start out with the ceiling. Now, I don't know anything about the building, construction, and general contracting trades, or rather what little I do know is probably not even on the small potatoes end of the scale. But I was kind of surprised to find that when they put in the new ceiling, they didn't actually go to the effort of taking down the old moldy looking ceiling. They simply left it up there. They attached a framework of beams to it, and then they brought the ceiling down via some drywall that you can see installed right here. Another thing I found surprising, when this project was first conceived, the talk was, oh, you know, we're going to gut the entire bathroom. And it hasn't quite worked out that way. I really thought they would be going down to the studs. And outside of some very obviously water-damaged materials, they haven't done anything like that. They've left a lot of this old wallboard in place and this kind of waxy textured, I don't know, maybe this was special bathroom grade wallpaper or something, but they've left it in place and they've just kind of been covering over it with fresh new material. Again, definitely something that came as kind of a surprise. And of course we're getting all new wiring and fixtures in here. All of this has yet to actually be hooked up. We did learn that this is not the first time that this bathroom has seemingly been repaired as regards serious water issues, because someone had cut a portion of the wood floor out and replaced it with new material that was once again water damaged just because of the terrible state of repair that everything had come to be in. This project, as previously mentioned, is just ridiculously way overdue. This will be our new shower stall. We're foregoing a bath here in the lower floor bathroom. We have a bathtub in the upstairs bathroom if that's actually something that's necessary. I don't know if they're going to use this light switch for anything or if it's simply been abandoned, it's going to be taken out. That's about all I can think of to say as concerns this. Again, my knowledge of the general contracting and construction trades is very limited. As previously mentioned, doesn't even register on the small potatoes end of the scale. So I'll just pan the camera around the room and show you some of the things that have been done, and if any of you folks have got input on these various and sundry activities that you've seen in this particular portion of the video, well, by all means you can certainly feel free to leave a comment if you have one. Here we're looking at the shower drain area. Got some sort of a waterproofing material here, and I think they're going to fill that in with concrete up to the level of the drain. We have a seat here, and then our new faucet, which is one of those anti-scalding types. Not sure how I feel about that, because I like to take a shower just as hot as I possibly can, and scalding has never really been a problem with the plumbing in this house. Oh sure, you can endure unexpected changes in water pressure and sometimes a bit of a shift in temperature, usually toward the cold end of the spectrum, but that's been about the most of it. I do wish they had put that up higher. I suppose it's probably too late to do anything about that now, because they may not want to take out that pipe and re-sweat it, or cut it and stick a union in it and open up the potential for leaks. So here's just a look at things that are being done with very little in the way of further narration. It's the back side of the laundry chute right there. Of course, when you start any sort of major remodeling or restoration project, it's very rare that anything else in the house is left unscathed. Some rooms turn into storage areas. Some of them just end up picking up dust and dirt that's been tracked in from elsewhere. This is what our living room has been turned into. And so we have a pile of tiles there, some accent pieces, faucets, all kinds of interesting stuff. This is our new exhaust fan. We didn't have an exhaust fan in the lower floor bathroom, which is probably where a lot of the mold and moisture issues came from. I wasn't really too optimistic about the state of modern exhaust fans, but this model from Broan, the AER 110L, has, I think, completely turned my way of thinking around. This thing looks to be an absolutely amazing fan. I believe it has a quoted figure of moving 110 cubic feet per minute worth of air. Whether or not it'll actually do that, I don't know. Comes with an LED style light that ought to last forever and is extraordinarily bright. I guess we'll see how well that happens to fan out. But the most interesting part here, I had really thought the days of anything but the most high-end commercial grade exhaust fans having proper motors in them were long since over. And I'm pleased to say that does not appear to be the case here, because this thing looks to have, and it runs very, very quietly. We'll get it over into the light here so you might actually be able to see it. Looks like this thing has actually got a proper style of motor in it. It's even got a little running capacitor off here to the side, so it's a proper permanent split capacitor motor. And from having heard one of these things run in a store demonstration situation, for the volume of air that it moves, there are the figures right there. It's extremely quiet. You could barely even hear the motor running. The only complaint I'd levy against this thing is that it's claimed to be a permanently lubricated motor. You can see there's no way to service it, but maybe that'll actually be true with a higher quality part like this. It's certainly much better than the little shaded pole style motors that you see in a lot of these cheap modern exhaust fans that last about 6 months before they sound like they're pulling a farm implement or mowing the lawn or something equally inappropriate. And of course the motor just locks up entirely and it's game over for your exhaust fan. Of course, if you catch one in time, you can sometimes save it. This is our sink. Initially, we were not going to replace the sink, but therein lies a story. Nothing's ever easy or cheap, and that's certainly true in this case. The amount of money we've been putting into this has been absolutely frightful. These are the original sinks. We decided to save them and reuse at least one of them. One of them's in much better shape than the other because it was nearly never used. But as you can see, they're not white in color. They're kind of a light gray. And here's something that you might not have known. When it comes to getting other fixtures in a matching color, especially a toilet, well, it seems that light gray color becomes a problem. Most of the major supply houses like Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards, places like that, seems the only thing they carry in stock is a white toilet. Now, they can order other colors of toilets, but your life will be getting that much more expensive still. It's almost twice the cost to get a toilet in a custom color as opposed to simply taking a white one. So we've decided to simply abandon the plan of reusing those sinks. We'll save them. I mean, they're old crane sinks and they're in pretty good shape. Certainly the kind of quality that you probably wouldn't see anymore. But we've decided that maybe we'll give them away or use them somewhere else. This is our new toilet. I guess we'll see how impressive that is when they get around to putting it in. They have some lighting here. I find it amusing that these people refer to themselves as Patriot Lighting, considering that I'm sure that is a China Pride light fixture, as I believe all their other products are. However, we did have a little more luck in our quest to reuse certain things within the bathroom. One of them being this mirror. This is the original mirror that was part of the bathroom, and initially it was going to get thrown out of the window, but I suggested that maybe that wasn't the best course of action, and so I took it outside and I set it aside gently without breaking it, and that turned out to be a very good idea because we're going to put a framework around it and reuse it. Again, because mirrors, if you can believe it, are just unbelievably expensive. This is our new bathroom window. This was the steal of a century. I guess this was like, I think maybe a $500 or $600 window. Supposedly top of the line from the company that makes it. Proudly made in the USA, as it says right there. So that's awesome. But I guess because this was a discontinued model and they were tired of looking at it and they wanted to move it through, that they decided they could put the price down considerably. And oh boy, did they ever. Unbelievable deal on this window. It's not quite what we were looking for, but at that price, who cares? And then down here's part of a shower door assembly kit. And then over there by the television, hopefully safely tucked out of the way, is the shower door that we'll be using. As you can see, this is quite a project. That's just a small fraction of the tiles that we've needed. Those things are so heavy, and every time we've made a trip out to buy stuff, we've gone in a car and we've had to be careful not to overload the car because we've had, 3 or 4 passengers, a trunk full of this stuff, which is several hundred pounds easy. I think each one of these packages, these big ones, is about 60 pounds a piece, and that adds up very quickly. You could end up overloading a car. We probably should have taken a pickup truck, but when you've got a whole family of people that want to go out and shop, well, that's kind of hard to do, isn't it? Sometimes having a whole bevy of vehicles, even though that's a very expensive proposition here in the state of Illinois, comes in quite handy when you've got a project like this on. This is my late grandfather's pickup truck and my trailer, and we've been using it to transport drywall. Mosquito Alley is surprisingly nice this time of year, but we're not late enough in the year yet that it gets all soupy and nasty back here. Sometimes I feel sorry for that air conditioner. We've got a lot of stuff back here. We had an enormous amount of trash, but I cleaned all that up. There's the opening for the window. We board that up at night with this big old board right here, this big old scrap piece of board, just to make sure that nothing will get in. Because birds are a problem around here. I had some birds that were being stupid about 2 weeks ago. They were trying to build a nest around the air conditioner sticking out of my bedroom window at like 5 o'clock in the morning, which, as you can imagine, was far less than a crowd pleaser. I got up in a half-awake state and I removed the air conditioner from the window. And then I shut the storm window, and while I'll probably have to put it back at some point, I'm probably going to look at bird-proofing that somehow, but that's getting a little bit beside the point. Leaving it open during the day doesn't seem to have been a problem. And then up here, we've had the vent hole cut for our exhaust fan. I know there's a lot of people that'll take shortcuts, and they'll just vent the exhaust from the fan up into the rafters or something, and that's not a good idea. Although I really thought that perhaps that was what had been done with the upstairs bathroom exhaust fan. That frosted window right there is where the upstairs bathroom is in relation to the downstairs one. And until I got my borescope out one day, I really thought that's all that had been done, but there's actually a proper metal pipe taking that up to the roof. Where it terminates at, I don't know, but there was no sign that the pipe ended just somewhere up in the attic. Maybe they decided to bring it out through there. I don't know, because I don't ever recall seeing a termination on the roof for it, but when I pushed the borescope to the end of its travel, I discovered that I could see daylight, so it must go outdoors someplace. And then, of course, having mentioned all the trash that was back here, there is the matter of trash. What have we been doing with that? Well, obviously there's no way to get a dumpster back here, at least not easily. And this is not our property over here, though we were entertaining thoughts of buying this house. Our next door neighbors bought it, which is actually a really, really good thing because they're awesome people. And we knew there wasn't going to be some slumlord come in here and rent it out to less than wonderful people. Let's just put it that way. But we couldn't put a dumpster here permanently because this is their driveway, and they've been gracious enough to let us use it during the day because there's nobody around. So instead, the dumpster is right here on our main driveway. There have been a few times when owning the Roach Palace property has been nice, and this is certainly one of them. This was initially supposed to be quite a small dumpster, But it didn't actually turn out that way because the refuse company didn't actually have any small dumpsters. So they gave us a big one for the price of a small one. We've got it for a month. And as you can see, more than just bathroom related stuff is going in there. There's going to be a lot of stuff from the Roach Palace going in here too, and any other random crap that I can find. Of course, when you're remodeling, you generate an awful lot of crap. And a lot of that crap has the very unfortunate tendency to be incredibly heavy. And it wouldn't be at all fun to try and walk it around from one side of the house to the other. And in that regard, the trusty old John Deere 316, this is the late 1970s Kohler engine version, in case you're wondering, has been worth its weight in gold. The tires don't really hold air like they're supposed to, and we had to get some new tires for our little yard cart here. This is the heaviest trash can of the bunch that I've moved so far. Thing is a man killer. But now that we've got new tires on that, and we just keep airing up the tires on the tractor as necessary, well, everything is in wonderful shape. This thing has just been worth its weight in gold, even though that old Kohler motor is getting pretty tired. I don't know how much longer it's got, but hopefully it'll get us through this project, and maybe we can even rebuild it at some point. I don't know if that motor could have its cylinder sleeved. Wow, funny how a bathroom remodel can result in thinking about so many different projects. It's now the end of the third week of the bathroom construction project. One truism that has definitely been realized, as with any construction or remodeling project, is that of the dust getting absolutely everywhere. Probably going to need to change the furnace filter after this. Let's go in here and take a look at what's been done. It looks so bright and so nice. Just unbelievable. The transformation from what it was to what it is now. I know they've wanted to block sewer gas from coming up through the toilet opening, but that's a very interesting way to do it. And here's our shower stall, which is gradually coming into form. You can see this waterproofing material that will be the backdrop. And I believe that the next thing that will be going on top of this is actually the tiles. Yes, that is right. The shower stall will be tiled. I believe at least some of the rest of the bathroom will be tiled as well. And speaking of tiles, although they are not permanently in place, our contractor has fitted and placed all of the tiles for the floor in the shower. And if you look very carefully at them, you can see that they have been numbered, presumably in something whose markings are not indelible in nature. I thought the way the drain turned out is very interesting. I never would have expected that the drain opening itself would be so small and that there would be a tile placed in the center of it, but I guess that's how it's going to work out. So probably on Monday, by my guess, they'll be working on securing this. And maybe they'll start putting up additional tiles as well. Our cabinetry has come in, but it hasn't been delivered yet. And I don't know what we're doing for flooring. But we'll find out. That's part of the fun. I'd like to maybe clean up the boot that feeds this vent. Maybe take the grill out, the diffuser itself, and paint it or make it look a little nicer. No doubt it's very old, but there's certainly no reason why it couldn't be cleaned up and made to look very good. I think we'll be keeping the original outlet. And I also inquired about the nature of the light switches. I probably would have figured this out if I'd have taken a closer look at things. Well, no, I definitely would have figured it out. But it turns out that the switches that are being added right here will operate the light and the exhaust fan separately. And then this old switch, I don't know how they're going to deal with the junction box situation on this. The fact that the junction box is actually now recessed by at least 2 inches, I would say. But maybe they'll get an extension or something like that, because this certainly shouldn't be allowed to float around in the wall, especially if it ever developed a problem, because you wouldn't want it to set fire to anything. Maybe they'll get an extension for that. I really don't know. But that is how the bathroom project stands. Another thing that's been done, with the drywall having all been hung up and secured into place, we're going to paint these walls. They'll be a light gray color, which may or may not come through on the camcorder when it has actually taken place. But in order to prep the drywall for painting, we needed to get some sort of preparatory, I believe it's a sealing agent, because I think drywall is actually porous in nature. Of course, those of you in the viewing audience who are contractors or drywall hangers, well, if you think that I'm talking complete nonsense, again, gentle corrections are certainly welcome, because I am not a general contractor. But that's what's been going on, and we'll have another report in, about a week or so, but you won't have to wait that long thanks to the magic of video editing. Now here I am at the upstairs bathroom, and you might be asking yourself, Self, why is Bill showing us the upstairs bathroom? After all, we don't believe he's remodeling it. Well, you're correct, we're not. It's just that old houses, although they are wonderful, they can be a lot of fun, by which I mean there's almost a new challenge that shows up about every day. And we have one here. We re-roofed the house sometime in 2009. Did most of the work ourselves with the help of a part-time general contractor who was also my dad's boss at his previous place of work. Unfortunately, it seems that something has gone wrong with the roofing. We've noticed during situations of high wind and rain that we're having roof leaks in a few areas within the house. Well, if you remember back to that video, you might know, I'm not sure if it was mentioned or not, that there is a flat rubber sheet that covers a portion of this house's roof, and that rubber sheet actually covers a flat portion. Well, my dad and our other contractor, the one who's doing the bathroom, went up there to take a look, because obviously situations like this are completely untenable. Yeah, there's a hole behind that tape. The ceiling in here is probably going to have to be replaced. In for a penny, in for a pound, I guess. You can see there's a crack here that's been forming. This is just not a very good situation. So they went up there and they looked at the rubber sheet and they discovered that it's all full of holes. Now you might be thinking that, well, the devious sun must have done that with those deadly UV rays it emits, but we don't think so. It's possible, but our hypothesis at this time is that the adhesive, which ended up being used with the rubber sheet, was somehow incompatible and it has degraded or destroyed the rubber. After all, there was a rubber sheet up there previously, and it didn't suffer any of these problems, so we're thinking that it was an adhesive-related issue. Our current contractor has suggested that the way to fix it is to build a conventional pitched roof instead of the flat portion that's up there now, and shingle it in the conventional way. The funny thing is, I don't think that part of the house actually extends over this bathroom. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I would think if we go down the hallway here and we take a look outside, what should be right above us is the area with the flat rubber sheet. I don't know if you call that a dormer or what you call that. And yet we've never had a roof leak here in the hallway. You can see that the ceiling is completely undamaged. There's no ingress of moisture anywhere. Never mind what looks to be behind that one lamp. That's just an artifact of the lighting. Got a few cobwebs. Maybe it's been a little wet there, I'm not sure. It doesn't feel mushy or anything. But I don't know what's behind these ceiling tiles. So this area appears to be okay. The bathroom and a corner of the living room are the only places where we've noticed leaks. And of course, by Furhead's bedroom, there's been an issue in years past with ice dams, but that predates our re-roofing the house. And we'll find out, because we got new gutters, and that'll probably make something of a difference there. But yes, indeed, old houses are always some kind of fun or another. Oh, and by the way, if you happen to be cleaning said bathroom and you have a house cat that's hanging around and making a pest of him or herself, well, here's a great way to gently encourage said cat to move on and consider other activities. A handy little tip, that. This is now the middle of the 5th week of our bathroom renovation related program activities and this particular video journal, which while I have not been keeping it as up to date as I could have, there has been an awful lot going on since the last time I shot video during the 4th week of this particular project. The shower area is almost completely tiled in, and perhaps some of the more observant members of the viewing audience may have noticed that not all of the tiles are precisely lined up. Here's a good example right now. You can see where those 4 corners come together, that they're not exact. But I certainly don't mind that because I think it lends a very genuine, handmade feel to the whole thing. I think when a lot of people do something like this, although again I would have to admit I don't know all that much about it, that perhaps they get sheets of tiles that are evenly spaced apart with some sort of a backing, or even fake tiles that are produced out of some sort of a thermoplastic or formed or vacuum formed plastic. This is nothing like that. These are the real deal. These smaller tiles right here actually do have backing material attached to them, but that seems to be the only way in which they're sold. Here's a look at the floor of the shower. You can see there's an interesting pattern in it. I still find this drain very interesting to look at. I wonder how well that's going to work over time. And I don't know, but I hope that perhaps the tile that is placed in the center of the drain grid actually does come out if you ever had to clean it or snake it or anything along those lines. We have a faucet now, and because this is not a bathtub, there will be no spout anywhere. It is simply all shower or nothing at all. This is supposedly a scald resistant faucet, so there's something like the washing machine kicks in or somebody flushes the toilet somewhere, it's not supposed to cause a sudden exothermic reaction to emerge from the shower head and surprise the hapless person who's taking a shower. Apparently you set some kind of a maximum permissible temperature limit, and I certainly hope that whatever the temperature limit might be in that particular thing, that it does allow one to take as hot of a shower as they would like, because I like to emerge from the shower well done. I don't know about any of you, but that's how I feel about the matter. We almost thought for a moment that American Standard had perhaps shorted us some of the assembly parts for this particular faucet, which actually led to my calling them before they suddenly turned up in a box on a more careful inspection. And while this faucet, there were plenty of them available for purchase in the store, is still marketed and apparently something you can still buy, at least here in 2016. It may not be true when you're watching this video sometime down the road. It seems that some of the parts for this have already been rendered obsolete. When I asked about receiving the screws to attach the trim plate or the escutcheon here, they told me that those parts were obsolete and they could not supply them, which is kind of odd since I believe this does have a limited lifetime warranty on it. Maybe they intend to fulfill that just by potentially handing you a new faucet and saying, hey, put this in your wall. I really don't know. But with a wall like this, you'd certainly have to tear into it a little bit. Our contractor did not put a service access in the wall, though how you would do that with a tiled wall such as this, I'm really not 100% sure. Hopefully we'll never have to find out because the pipes are all sweated and soldered together. Our shower head will be going here. Undoubtedly there is something a lot prettier to look at that comes packaged with the shower head and faucet assembly other than just that pipe cap and that little stub of pipe sticking out there. So that's a look at the shower. Everything that's been done. Still a little bit of work to do. It's not quite 100% finished yet. Other things that aren't 100% finished yet, I have to bring power to the wiring. I'll be doing that probably over the next week or so. I have to think about how I want to do it, where I want to go in the house to get it. But we will have an arc fault and ground fault circuit interrupting breaker to protect everything that is in the bathroom. Speaking of electrical devices, we now have more than just a rough-in kit in place for our exhaust fan. The whole fan is in place, and I would assume it's even wired up. I'm looking forward to seeing that in action. We have our window in place. Some of you in the viewing audience may have noticed that while this is not a privacy window, we do have a plan in mind for it. Probably just put some curtains over it as we did with the previous window. It's a very nice window, and as previously mentioned, we got it for one heck of a good price. So there's definitely some room for compromise there. We have our cabinets. I meant to get some video of these coming into the house, but unfortunately I was busy at the time and I was unable to do so. It seems that there's something of an unwritten rule that during any project like this, something is going to go minorly wrong, and here it is. These cabinets were supposed to be finished, especially this tall portion here, and unfortunately somebody at the cabinet manufacturer, well, they didn't get the memo and they kind of messed up. And our contractor wasn't too happy about that because our cabinet dealer is telling us that it'd take a week for them to get the right parts and fix the cabinet. And I don't know how interested they are in actually solving it. These cabinets came from the same manufacturer and the same distributor as the ones in our kitchen. These were supposed to be the highest end cabinets that they had to offer. They were running a promotion on these: buy the highest end cabinet, get them at the price of the lowest end cabinet. And the lowest end cabinets are what's in our kitchen. They have endured a lot over the years, but they're not really very good cabinets, and although these are made of somewhat better materials, in particular these seem to be made of real, actual, decent wood. I'm not sure what wood they are made out of because I did not actually order them, but the ones in our kitchen are basically a particle board construction with a wood grain applique, almost like contact paper, over their fronts. Basically a very cheap veneer over some sort of a press board or particle board finish. These are actually real wood, but the actual construction of them isn't a whole lot different. And that includes these stupid plastic things, which I guess they love to use. And you can see there's a bit of a flexure in that. If you load up one of these drawers, and please don't ask how we know this other than through painful and somewhat common experience, these plastic things like to snap. And I don't know why the camcorder all of a sudden decided it wasn't going to focus, but apparently it didn't. We finally got tired of buying replacement plastic things over the years. Though to be fair to the cabinet maker, these are a revised assembly. Supposed to be a lot less of a problem with them breaking off. This snout is what actually fails on them. And Furhead finally made one out of metal with his welder, and it will probably be here for the second coming, if anyone is to guess. We'll be reusing our old bathroom mirror, so I'm glad I intercepted that from the trash before it had an opportunity to get broken, and our contractor also saved the mounting hardware that came with it. These will be our bathroom outlets right here. Again, they will be implicitly ground fault protected. I think this is where the light is going right here, and at first I thought this looked terribly incongruent because the old light was in approximately the center of the room, but as it turns out, that is pretty much centered over this vanity and cabinet area. Where we used to have just two sinks in here, we now have only one, but that's okay because nobody ever uses a second sink, and it gives us a little bit more room over here, a little bit more room around the heat vent, a little bit more room for the door to be tucked away. Speaking of the heat vent, the vent boot, which as you can see could stand a good vacuuming out, actually fell down into the subflooring and was basically heating a lot of the basement. Our contractor went ahead and pulled it up and fixed it, so we'll probably get much better heating in this room, not only because of the improved situation with the vent boot, but also the massively better situation as concerns the window insulation. Unfortunately, we still did not get the opportunity to actually put insulation in the walls and ceiling, which I would have liked to do, but apparently nobody else felt that way about the matter. So, this is the 5th week bathroom update. Thanks to the magic of video editing, we'll see what's going on when next there's anything terribly interesting to say. But for now, that is the complete story. So, thanks to the magic of video editing, we will be back in a while. The next big thing to happen, I think, is going to be the countertops. We actually had the countertop people in here today taking measurements, and they took our sink with them so they could accurately measure that and produce a precisely machined cutout for it in the counter material, which will actually be, I believe it's a DuPont product. It will be Corian synthetic material, or Corian. I don't know how that's pronounced. I've heard it pronounced a number of ways. But for right now, that is all the news that is fit to print. So we'll just back out of the room here, take a quick look at it, and then turn the camera off. Well, the dumpster is gone now, and it looks like we have the start of project number 2 over here, as previously discussed concerning the roof. And we've almost got our living room completely back once again. Oh look, there's another photocopier. Doesn't everybody have one of those in their living room? And as for the bathroom itself, well, let's just say it's had in recent times something of an illuminating experience. We don't have all the power hooked up in here yet, but our contractor put in the outlets. And before you stop the video and get ready to open up a comment in haste and say, hey, those aren't ground fault circuit interrupting outlets, you're right, they're not. However, they are being protected by a ground and arc fault circuit interrupter breaker, or at least they will be as soon as they are hooked up. Now, I think that so far our contractor has done a very good job here. It's certainly something that's needed to be done for years. There's our shower head, our shower door here. The shower door, I kind of wish it was taller, because you're not really going to get much privacy for your top end here. I guess not that you really need it though. But it would be nice if it was a little bit taller than it was. These glass shower doors, I suppose they're safe, but I can't help but think they make me nervous. You know, what if you slipped and fell into it and it exploded into 1,000 little tiny pieces, as this tempered glass usually does. Usually they're round, so they won't cut you terribly easy, but still. Anyway, despite the fact that our general contractor has done what I consider to be an excellent, if not outstanding job so far, well, sometimes you've got to watch them because they have different ideas from your own. And so it was with this particular setup. They put in all these outlets, and of course they ran a ground wire to each and every one of them, but they didn't hook it up. They just tied all the ground wires together in the back of the box and left them there, and I'm not really sure what they thought they were accomplishing with that, but I saw this before they put everything together and I said, hey now, I expect those grounds to be hooked up. And so now they have been, which is a good thing. But you just got to watch whenever you do a project like this to make sure that everything's going the way you want it to. Again, certainly no disrespect intended to the people who've been doing the work. We've got the startup plumbing here in the cabinet for the sink. We don't have our countertops yet. I don't know exactly when those are going to happen. I think it will be at least a week. And then here is the mirror from the old bathroom. This almost got thrown out the window, but I thought about giving it away, and so I decided to save it for that reason. Turns out it was a pretty good idea to save it because mirrors are kind of expensive, especially one this large. So our contractor, he built a wonderful frame for it. Really looks great. We made a last-minute decision change here. This was going to have a wood ledge on it, but instead it's been done in tiles. I think it looks absolutely outstanding. The last video I shot about this was on Monday or Tuesday, I believe, and now it's Wednesday, so they've made a lot of progress. Here we have the start of some supply plumbing for the toilet. And they somehow did not know that we had purchased a toilet. Otherwise, it probably would have been installed, and I can't say as I blame them because, to be perfectly honest about it, the toilet was out on the porch where everything else has been in the living room. Speaking of construction stuff that's been all over the place, I'll open this window here. This window is just amazing in my opinion. I really think we got a heck of a good deal on that. But almost all of the construction related debris and equipment that was out here is gone now, so that's a good thing. I'm really looking forward to when all of this is going to be finished. It'll be nice. Even though we have the upstairs bathroom, the only thing you can do up there is take a bath because the shower head leaked, and as we had no intention of taking a shower up there, we simply took it out, leaving only the bathtub functional. So we've actually been going over to the keykeeper's house to take showers. It's kind of nice that he's just across town from here. Let's see if I can fall and hurt myself on that thing. That'd probably be a good deal. Come on, Handycam, focus. There we go. We don't have our grill for the register in place yet. The original outlet from the previous bathroom still survives. And as previously noted, that outlet has been called upon to do an awful lot, and it has come through with flying colors. We don't have our paneling situation sorted out for the cabinet yet, but I have it on good authority that's supposed to happen in the very near future as soon as we can get our hands on the parts. We have a new surround around the door here that apparently really throws the autofocus on these camcorders for a loop. But I think that's come out looking really nice. There's a step down there as part of the threshold into the door, into the entrance, I guess I should say, but it's covered up right now to protect it. And one of our next remodeling projects, probably while the roofing thing is going on, will be to counteract the effects of excessive humidity here in the hallway. Fortunately, the damage that's been done is only cosmetic in nature. Here's one for you. When we moved into this house, these two original light fixtures were present. There's one here, and there's one over here. Okay, and those are really, really cool because they're really, really vintage. And that ceiling really, really needs to be redone. Make no mistake. But all of this will be getting attention paid to it next. We only had one shade for these, though, one diffuser. And somehow, nobody knows how, somewhere along the line we came up with another one that's exactly the same. I have no idea how we did it, other than to say that we did, but I'm glad that we finally have a proper diffuser for both of these really cool old school lamps, because those things are just absolutely awesome. Well, hello there again, everyone. It's time for our latest update here on the bathroom project. Things have only become more enlightened than they previously were. After a few false starts, however, we now have power, albeit temporary power that I've hooked up simply with some flying leads. I have yet to enclose everything in junction boxes down in the basement. When I did that late last night, or should I say early in the morning, I turned on the circuit breaker, came up here, and found that much to my great surprise, both the fan and the light were on, despite the fact that both of these switches were off. And when I turned one of these switches on to see what that might change, I threw a breaker. It's not good. It's not a good thing to do, and for some reason that I can't quite figure out, or at least I haven't thought enough about it yet, the fan was running very, very loudly. I don't know if they managed to maybe put it in series somehow with the light. I think if anything that would have perhaps made it a little bit quieter, although I'm sure the resistance imposed by that light is minuscule. But I've gone ahead just now and put it all right, and it all works the way it's supposed to now. And the fan, while it's not as whisper quiet as it was in the store, the one that was in the store also wasn't driving any kind of a stack and having to work with static pressure in the pipe or back pressure against it, but it's still a very nice and quiet fan. Hard to believe I got the right light switch on the first try, but I did. And then of course there is the light, and it does a very nice job. That thing is really, really bright, yet it still manages to fan out pretty well. So I don't think we'll have any complaints about the level of light that's going on in here. And of course I can switch both the light and the fan separately. There's the fan shutting down right now. So it's not silent, but it's still very, very quiet, and it appears to be an exceptional quality fan. Time will tell, but I'm certainly hoping for results that are the best. Now, one of the things that I'm doing recently, on a more personal note, I have decided perhaps that a change in field is going to be the only way that I'm going to land up with any employment more regular than my sporadic computer consulting business that I used to do on the side, but now has been my sole source of income. So I've been enrolled in a heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, or HVAC, curriculum at a community college. And one of the first classes I'm taking, which I've been doing very well at, really the only thing I've struggled with is the concept of running wires neatly, which is something that I never really gave much thought to, but I've gotten a lot better at it. And although there were some false starts and misgivings at first, so far I think the instructor's all right, if not a pretty awesome guy. He introduced me to these things. I don't know how many of you have seen these. I'm not sure the pronunciation of that. He says it Wago, so I guess that's what I'm going to go with. These things are basically a more modern version of a wire nut, which is a trademark, albeit a genericized one. And I'll tell you what, they are absolutely the business. I love these things, and I don't think I'm ever going to be able to go back to wire nuts, even if these do cost somewhat more. So that's just completely awesome. I'm told that our shower is ready to go, so I guess we'll turn it on here, see what happens. We have kind of a seal there at the bottom of the door. So we'll have the inaugural operation of the shower here. Well, not quite inaugural. I cracked it last night, but I didn't let it run for any appreciable amount of time because I didn't know if it was really ready for prime time. You wouldn't want to be showering the inside of the wall or anything. This is an anti-scald faucet, but we've got it set to basically its hottest point because really scalding isn't a problem around here. But the adjustment tool is sitting right there on the bench. Yes, we have a bench in our shower. Let's go ahead and turn this on and just see what it does. I do hope that we'll be able to install some kind of a handheld shower head in here, because I would definitely prefer that. I also kind of wish this was a little taller than it is. Our drain looks a little slow. We may have to talk to the contractor about that. I don't know, because we certainly don't want this to flood over the lip and get to doing anything that it shouldn't be doing. But while that fan is on, let's go outside and take a look and see what the damper's doing. En route to my destination, this is a quick look at our new toilet and the old one, which at the last possible moment I decided to save because I think we're going to have a toilet in the basement once again, which will be really, really handy. And here's a look at the damper, doing its own dampery little thing. Doesn't look like there's any kind of a grill or anything to stop something from potentially pushing its way in there. But given the way that hinge probably swings, which I'd assume is only one way, as it looks like it encounters some kind of a stop back there that would prevent it from going inward, I don't think we'll have a lot of trouble with ingress of wildlife or anything like that. They say that direct vented furnaces are oftentimes a problem for that mice will crawl up the direct venting pipe or birds will get in there, and we've never had that problem with ours, knock on wood, in the 21 odd years it's been since the new furnace was installed in this house. Hard to believe it was that long ago. But listen to how quiet that is. That fan is just amazing. I hope it lasts, because otherwise, if it lasts, I think I'm really going to love it, but otherwise, it may not be such a good deal. I don't know. This is an outside look at our new window, which still needs to have the label taken off of it, but that can definitely be done. There's the new frame. And here's a look at the backyard. There's a couple things that need to be cleaned up. Need to get that box off the air conditioner, but it's still a couple of months before air conditioning season. I think that's probably going to be a project that I'm going to tackle in the near future. Going to go ahead and hit this with a thin comb. I'm not sure how all these fins have gotten to be flattened like this, but they've been like that for a long time, and I know that it's not helping this unit's efficiency in any way, shape, or form. So that's the latest update on the bathroom. We'll be back with more thanks to the magic of video editing. Well, here's something that certainly ended up happening a lot sooner than expected. Evidently our contractor had some jobs that could be put on the back burner, and so they've been working on our new roof, the addition up there. I have no intention of actually getting up on the roof, even though it's only about 30 feet up. I am absolutely terrified of heights past about 10 feet or so. You can kind of see what they've done there. Back up and get a better perspective of it here. They haven't actually shingled it yet, but it does seem to be watertight, because we've just had one heck of a rain shower here today. A flash downpour. No thunder, no lightning, no warning, no nothing like that. So go ahead and take a look at what they've been doing there. Thankfully, that portion of the roof didn't have any protrusions or drains or vents in it or anything like that. You can definitely kind of see how it hasn't been shingled yet. They've just got the tar paper in place. There's our new Citizens Band base station antenna. And because people have asked about it in the past, yes, we do actually use the television antenna. And there's a close-up of it. Undoubtedly, I'm giving the image stabilization in this camcorder quite a workout, especially at this high of a zoom level. Here's what probably is a little signal combiner or something for the VHF and UHF elements. We discovered recently, because owning a home is so much fun, especially when it's an older home. Not that I'm complaining, it's cooled off again in recent times. And with the cool off in weather, we decided to fire up the wood stove and it smoked out the living room, so evidently there's something plugging the chimney. It's not that chimney. That chimney is basically out of service at this point, except for the water heater. That's the only thing that still vents to it. But there's a chimney on the other side of the house, not too far removed from the television antenna, that is actually hooked up to the wood stove, so we'll have to have our chimney sweep look at it. But for right now, that's all the update I've got. We still don't have any countertops or anything like that in the bathroom, and we don't have a toilet yet. And as for the shower, well, there's some news about that. The shower drain works beautifully now. We mentioned the problem to our contractor. Just give you a demonstration of what it's like here. And he went and examined it, found that it wasn't mortar or anything like that that had made its way down the drain. It was simply a plastic bag, which makes sense because there were plastic sheets and bags along the bottom of this to protect it while they were working on it. I guess one of them just slipped away unnoticed. But now that drain will take everything you can throw at it. You could dump a 5-gallon bucket of water in here and it would just work absolutely beautifully. In my opinion, the shower stall is a little cramped, but it's certainly plenty serviceable enough. I still really wish that this shower door was taller than it is, and that it was perhaps more opaque, though it does fog up pretty nicely. And I'm definitely missing a detachable shower wand to clean all of my, 2,000 parts or 2001 parts? I think it's just 2,000 parts. The old soap commercials for Lever 2000. Yeah, that was it, 2,000 parts. And we still have to do something about the privacy of that window. Right now we're just kind of playing it careful. We'll get some curtains or something to hang up. And like I say, the toilet has yet to arrive, and our countertops aren't here. But we have started to make use of the cabinetry. Here's one for you. Go ahead and turn the shower off real quick because it's starting to fog up. That exhaust fan is absolutely the business. In fact, check this out. It whisks that stuff right away, beautifully. It's nice and quiet too. We bought these plastic baskets at Walmart. These were 75 cents a piece. They're made in the United States, which is absolutely awesome. We also got another little storage thing. I don't know where it is. It's not up there. It cost $6 and it was made in China, even though it was produced by a minority and women-owned company. A good thing to support, to be sure, but for the price they're asking, I don't think it would have killed them to make those in the United States, when Sterilite could do the same for quite a small fraction of the price of the other ones. I think I mentioned it previously that all the outlets in the vanity have been wired up and they're doing their thing. Yeah, our line voltage is a little high around here. When I started shooting video covering the entirety of the bathroom remodeling saga, and yes, that is a very appropriate word for it, I made the remark that a journey of 1,000 miles has to begin with a single step. And now, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, folks that have stuck it out this long, I am pleased to announce that for all practical intents and purposes, the exciting and long-running saga of our bathroom remodeling project has come to a close. So let's go ahead and just take a hopefully quick look at the way things have turned out, everything that's been finished, everything that's been done. There might be a few minor things here or there, but for all intents and purposes, this bathroom is well and truly complete at this point. Now, I didn't get footage of things like the toilet being installed or the countertop and the sink being installed, primarily for two reasons. Either I wasn't here at the time, or there were so many people in here working, and let's face it, folks, this is a tiny space, that I feared there might be something of a too many cooks situation going on. For example, if we open this cabinet here, then we try to open the shower door, well, I think you can see what I mean very clearly. Bathrooms in old houses are traditionally small, and without very significant remodeling and demolition and things like that, it would have been impossible to make this bathroom larger. We did shift things around a little bit. I believe it's been mentioned that the area around the toilet has been made much larger than it was, since we weren't going to put a bathtub back in here. Unfortunately, that has served to make the shower rather cozy, to say the least. Equally unfortunate is the presence of a flow restrictor in the shower, something that I objected to and was pretty promptly shot down about removing. So, not everything is perfect, but it's certainly a million times better than what we had. Speaking of things that remain to be done, I know this looks terribly filthy down in that vent boot, but it has been vacuumed out and cleaned up as best as possible. You'll have to excuse me, I've picked up a stupid cough between the last couple segments of video and this one. The proper thing to do probably would have been to put a new boot in there, maybe clean out the ductwork, although the times I've been into the ductwork in this house, it has actually been pretty clean. But we have yet to put the diffuser back in place, the register. I guess that when it's on the floor you call it a register, and when it's on the wall or the ceiling you call it a diffuser. I'm not really sure what the difference is, but maybe there's somebody out there who would care to enlighten me about such things. A few little details. First of all, yes indeed, folks, it really is as lovely and welcoming as it looks outside. You look at the weather radar right now, and it doesn't show a storm cloud in sight, but it's definitely raining outside right now, and it's really, really dark, despite the fact that it's only like, about 10 minutes to 5, according to the highly inaccurate clock across the hallway, so I guess it's really about 4:30 or thereabouts. That thing it's a time machine. That's the best way there is to put it. You put a battery in it, even if it's a brand new battery, it speeds up, it slows down. The only thing I've never seen it do is get up to 88 miles an hour, but that's probably just because I haven't watched it. Here we have a towel bar. I think this is kind of an unusual location for a towel bar, but there it is. We actually put the toilet paper dispenser roll right here, and we are using it, although this is probably a bad idea with a cat in the house, because at least in the case of the upstairs bathroom, the cat will happily just roll all the toilet paper right onto the floor and nothing flat. Here's our new toilet. Yeah, it's one of those water-saving, high-efficiency toilets, and while I certainly love things that are old, and I think that a lot of times older technology did it better than new stuff, toilets are not necessarily a place where I share that particular opinion. I know these things get a lot of negative press. Evidently people feel that they don't handle, well, let's just say large messes particularly well. I've got to say my experience differs completely. It's been very positive with these things. Sure, they don't use as much water, and maybe they're not as effective in some cases, but they have designed these things such that there's a very powerful jet of water that appears front and center and just powers the mess down the drain. And in my experience, it's been just enormously effective. I found no reason to be terribly unhappy with these toilets, but I could certainly see that they're not for everyone, and that if you have a very serviceable old toilet, or a toilet that is tailored to the decor of your bathroom, by which I mean it's not white in color, why you might want to keep it. This has a very nice feature. The lid won't slam down. It shuts itself very gracefully, as you can see. I suppose you could always wing it down anyway, and it would probably go ahead and shut accordingly, but that's a pretty nice touch, and why would you want to go ahead and try to break the toilet deliberately anyway? I really don't know. This toilet, of course, is from Kohler, and it seems to do an entirely credible job. Go ahead and take a look at the sink over here. The surface, the countertop surface, is Corian Formica. Once again, all these outlets back here that appear to be plain and of the non-ground fault circuit interrupting variety, they are actually protected down in the breaker panel by a ground fault and arc fault circuit interrupter. So you don't have to worry about that. Put your keyboard down. This is just kind of a, I forget what color this is called. It'll probably come to me after I turn the camera off. But I think it came out looking really well. There's some of the grout work underneath the outlets. For what they had to work with, I think our general contractors did an exceptional job. Here's our as yet unused and famously gravity-defying towel ring. I suppose maybe that'll get a bit looser as time goes on and it's used more, but who knows, maybe a towel ring that doesn't move so easily is kind of useful. I really don't know. This is the area underneath the sink. Still blessedly free of stuff. I don't know that we're going to store anything under there. These cabinets, as previously mentioned, have got a neat little kind of hydraulic style closer on them. You can slam them shut if you want to, although I'd never admit to having done such a thing in a nice new bathroom such as this. But under ordinary circumstances, if you push them closed, they take themselves closed very nice and quietly. Works very well across all the cabinets. These pull-out drawers have a similar setup. There's a little hydraulically charged cylinder. Pretty clever bit of engineering, really, that makes these work. You push that in and it trips a little latch, and then the cylinder takes the drawer the rest of the way in, nice and quietly. If you're easily amused like I am, this thing will keep you busy all day. Go ahead and try this one. Here's our hair clippers and stuff. Yeah, it even works with a pretty heavily loaded drawer, such as these. That's some shelf paper that my mother's going to be installing. And then we'll have a quick look at the sink, and by golly, then I think it's time to go ahead and wrap it up. This is, of course, the only thing that was carried over from the old bathroom into the new. This is the same mirror that we had. As previously mentioned, mirrors are kind of expensive, it turns out. So I intercepted this one from being thrown out the window, and then our general contractor said, well, he could probably build a nice frame, hang it back on the wall, so he did. Turned out very nicely, I think. I'm always all for reusing stuff wherever it's possible to do so. And here's a look at the sink. This is a Moen faucet with, I think, a satin nickel style finish. Seems to flow plenty of water. This drain closing lever is a little bit pushed backwards. I don't know if it's supposed to be that way. Something kind of tells me probably not. But it does work. You can close the drain and start to fill up the sink. Cold water works as well as hot. And the drain works very quickly and decisively. Speaking of quick and decisive functioning in drains, I think I mentioned this in a previous video installment. Our general contractor figured out very quickly why this drain was behaving so terribly sluggishly. It turned out that there wasn't any mortar or anything like that that had gotten inside it. A plastic bag had managed to go down the trap somehow, but he got it out, and now it works just beautifully. Not that it's really challenged, considering that there's a flow restrictor in that shower head. And if you get the feeling that I hate flow restrictors, well, you are onto something. I despise the things. I think it's a false economy. Because if you take a 3-minute shower without a flow restrictor and you use 20 gallons of water, you have to take a 30-minute shower to do the same thing. You end up using the same amount of water. It's just a timing game, really. There's the washing machine kicking on. Speaking of, the scald-resistant function of this faucet actually does appear to work pretty well, maybe a little too well, because it turns the water a little excessively cold for my taste. But as you can see, that drain is taking water quite nicely, and here too. So that's pretty much everything there is to say about the new bathroom. If you have made it through this video saga, I certainly appreciate your sticking with it through my rambling, which I'm uncannily good at. But for now, that is everything there is to say about this particular bathroom remodeling episode. So thank you again for watching. Certainly do feel free to leave a comment if you have one, especially if you have something helpful or interesting to offer about anything that you have seen done. A little bit late in the game to be asking for tips and stuff, but I figure maybe we'll do it again sometime. Who knows? The upstairs bathroom might very well take a remodeling of its own at some point in the future. It feels not unlike a tropical environment out here. Probably not as warm though. There is one more thing that warrants a quick bit of video coverage. Here's our new roof configuration on the house. You can see it's gone from having a flat roof and a triangle cap at the end to a diamond-shaped cap. It seems to be working very well. It's certainly getting a test today.